I mean, people in the comments are throwing Elliot Anderson and Lewis Miley into the conversation. Let's talk about them, because Elliot Anderson, he's been heavily involved in the game so far, and he looks as good as we all think he can be. We said this was a big summer for him. We said a few months ago that if he's not going to be offered a real chance of first team football this season, he has to go out on loan. We know Eddie Howe shut down any chance of that in January and the summer before. It's great to see him getting his opportunity. And I tell you what, we're talking about, the likes of Sean Longstaff and Joe Willock and even Joe Linton worrying, about their positions. But I think Elliot Anderson can definitely come in and sneak in, whether it be a centre role or out on the left. He's looking at home in both. And if he starts against Villa on the first day of the season, you wouldn't be upset and you wouldn't be surprised.
No, absolutely. And I think, I know we've just spent the last 23 minutes saying, don't look too far into pre-season, don't stress about it too much. But I do think one thing that has been very telling is that Elliot Anderson has started all 3 games so far. He was absolutely crucial in the fight back at Gateshead, really stamped his mark on that game. Impressed in the middle against Rangers, really, really good. And last night he looked, as good as we've ever seen him. Me and Lee Ryder both got a chance to speak to him after the Gateshead game, and we asked him, do you feel at home in this team now? Is there any chance that you're going out on loan? And he's basically said that he's here to stay, and I think that's the right decision. I think, he's proven in the last couple of months that he can really mix it with the best. We're starting to see really, really big strides of improvement in front of goal, which he said last week after Gateshead. He said that he wants to add goals to his game, and I think if he does, he's going to potentially be knocking Willock and Longstaff out the team because they don't add enough in front of goal. Really, really pleased for him on a personal level. He's really fought hard to stay in that team after a good loan spell at Bristol. And look, if he keeps this up for the next few weeks, I think a lot of people are going to be sticking him in their starting 11 for the Villa game.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got the desire to go forward with the ball. He can pick a pass. He can shoot. He's not afraid to take a pop at goal. He looks strong. He gets in the faces of the opposition, and he's still so young as well. But he just doesn't look out of place. And Eddie Howe must be just looking at that and thinking it's exactly what this side needs. And Lewis Miley as well. He's another one who, again, if he started against Aston Villa, would you really be sitting there thinking that's a bad call? Because again, the brief appearances that he's made for Newcastle, he looks streets ahead of his actual age.
He looks streets ahead of every single player that's coming up from the under-21s. They all must be looking at him, including his brother Jamie, who's a bit older, and saying, we really need to follow this guy's footsteps because he looked very, very comfortable against Gateshead. I know it's obviously National League opposition, and he came on last night and he did not look out of place. And I mean, at 17 years old, it's quite remarkable. And even against Chelsea on the last day last season, he didn't look out of place. It's really good to actually see another academy graduate coming up. Howe loves him. Are we going to see maybe a situation like we saw with Anderson, 2 years ago, where he's doing really well, he's progressing from the under-21s and he's in and around the first team, but a loan move is more beneficial? Maybe. But I think a League One or even a Championship club might take a punt on him because he was, he's proven that he can cut it with the best so far.
Yeah, and he's just not afraid to shoot a goal, and that's what you like. Ben Dawson has come out and said, these players in the academy, they've got to be memorable. They've got to do something memorable to seize their opportunity. And Miley and Anderson, they're doing that. Remy Savage, Alex Smith, they're all over there on the US tour as well. So the door is open. It's down to these players to seize the opportunity. And I don't think you can say it fairer than that. If you do a good job, the pathway is there to first team football. It's going to be very interesting to see whether Miley does go out on loan, and then also what happens to the other youngsters. Because I'm a big fan of Alex Murphy. I think he's got a big future ahead of him.
Really good at Gateshead as well.
But we've seen, because Kel Watts was held up as potentially this first team centre back. I know he had a hard time with injuries, but he's set to go, isn't he, on loan, and then that'll become a permanent deal, is what's being reported. And it shows you, it's kind of alluding to what Ben Dawson's talking about. it comes in the blink of an eye, doesn't it? These opportunities. So, we're talking about the likes of Remy Savage or Alex Murphy or Amadou Diallo, who captained the under-21s last season. They have to take their opportunities, because otherwise you will end up out of the club, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been really promising to see the last couple of weeks how many youngsters have got a chance at, Murphy, as I said, looked really good in the second half at Gateshead. Jay Turner-Cook took his goal very well. They've obviously been included on the US tour, which will be great experience for them. But then you look behind that, and there's obviously been a lot of, I wouldn't say big names, but recognisable names left behind. Lucas de Ball, who who played against Carlisle on Saturday. These players have really got to try and step up now this season. But there's only really a handful. I think Miley, as I said, is streets ahead. I think Murphy looks like he could be a really assured option if he keeps growing the way he does. There's options there. There is options, and we haven't said that too often in the last couple of years. And I think the further into this journey we go, we're going to see more players like that. The amount of attention and money that's been spent on the academy, Dan Ashworth really trying to strengthen Ben Dawson's side with good additions from around the country and beyond. As I say, it's just good to finally see some of these youngsters getting a chance in and around the first team.
Yeah, most certainly. And then it's down to them to take the opportunity. Philip says Miley seems to cover the ground effortlessly and looks so composed on the ball. Big lad for 17. Also, one of the questions we're getting quite a lot in the chat is about Grant Kewell and what is happening with him. There was a story on our website yesterday. It is the understand that he's close to a loan deal, which is interesting because, again, if you're looking at players of that age bracket who are likely to seize their chance or be given a chance to show what they can do, you would have thought Grant Kewell would have been one of them.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me too much that he's going out on loan. I think that was always the plan after he struggled at Hearts. But I will say it is maybe a little bit surprising that he hasn't been involved at any of the games so far. I think, when he was left out at Gateshead, I thought there maybe might be a loan move in the offing, ready to go, signed and sealed. But as you say, the story we had on our website yesterday, Matty Hewitt was speaking to representatives close to him, and they say that he's on the way out, but nothing's really confirmed. So interesting, you've got to be patient with him. He's young. He's coming from Australia. He's got to try and get minutes under his belt. It didn't work out in Scotland. Hopefully, this loan deal is better suited to him. And him and Minter, who they obviously signed from Danish side Odense, they can both prove what they can do before coming back next season and hopefully fighting for a spot in the first team.
Yeah, we've just got to hope. We're talking so favorably about these youngsters that we're not sat here in 18 months' time and 90% of them have been released by the club and haven't made it, because we have sat here previously and I could list off tons of names of players that we thought were going to make, Tom Herdman, for example, Adam Campbell, if you go way back when, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So there has to be hope that doesn't happen this time around. But you do have that hope because you know what Dan Ashworth can do. You know what he did at Brighton. You know what Eddie Howe's like. It hasn't worked perfectly. Kewell being the prime example. They have to make sure that these players get first team football, because otherwise their development is stunted. So this time around, you're hoping, like the chap who's gone to Feyenoord straight away, if Kewell does go out on loan, they get minutes under the belt, because that's the only way they're going to develop. Martin says the future looks so strong with the players coming through at the club.